Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to another episode of Intimacy with God Today. My name is Chuck, and of course, I'm the host, and I want to welcome you aboard. I hope you're having a blessed day. I hope you're having an exciting day. In spite of the trials that you may be going through, in spite of the trials that I'm going through, which that accompanies, being a part of a fallen world, which we can blame on Adam and Eve. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, we could. But we'll talk about that another time. But yeah, even in the midst of trials and hardships and setbacks and failures and, man, all the things that could go wrong, man, you can be an overcomer. You can have the joy of the Lord in your heart even during those times. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to start off with Hebrews 11:1 that says, now faith, because we are talking about faith now going forward for the next 6 months, faith and intimacy. In Hebrews 11:1 it says, now faith is the substance. A substance. You can hear it, you can see it, you can feel it, you can taste it, you can smell it if you get close enough. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence. I've got this check in my hand for $1 million. I know it's mine because I've got the check. It's evidence. And the evidence of things not seen. So faith is the substance, the tangible evidence of what you're hoping for. And in our case, that is a deeper walk, a more intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. And it's the evidence of things not seen. That's very, very important. Did you hear that? Not seen. God said to us, and had it written down so we would know it's the truth, that we walk by faith. Did you hear that? Faith. We walk by faith, not by what we see. Because remember, faith is the evidence of things not seen. Did you hear that? We walk by faith. What we can't see, but we're hopeful for, which is the evidence that we already have it. We walk by faith and not by sight. And not by sight, not by what we see, not by what we feel, not by what's going on around us, not by how bad we failed today, which you're going to fail. I did today. I failed so bad today. So I own 2 companies. One company's just exploded now. The other company's exploding. And I'm kind of trying to figure out how to build a platform for my own, for trading stocks. And man, the last couple of days, I've just killed it, man. I was long the market and short the market at the same time. That means I want it to go up in some cases and down in the other cases. But today, I killed it yesterday and this morning, and then I got overconfident. You see why God has to prune us back? Because we get too confident. And in order for us to bear more fruit out of a spirit of humility, God prunes us back. Like we prune back a tree so that it produces more fruit. Or like in our case, we have beautiful flowers around our house and we prune them back so that they'll produce more flowers, because my wife loves flowers and so do I. When I used to travel the world, I used to take pictures of almost every flower that I came across. I had thousands of pictures. They were so beautiful. I don't know where they are. I think they got thrown out after a while. But it's the evidence of what we don't see. Faith. When you have an intimate relationship with God, there's different levels of faith. But when you go into desiring a relationship with him, which you should because you're his child, you're going to do it by faith. Now, you're going to discipline yourself to do certain things that are practical, like setting aside time to spend with him, setting aside time to study his word. And even in that, you're going to have to do that by faith as well, because when you sit down to talk with him and nothing's happening and everything is screaming in your ear, you're going to have to come up under a shadow by faith. You're going to have to see him by faith. You're going to have to talk to him by faith. But when you do that, it'll please him and he'll show up, and it'll cause you to enter the real by faith. By faith. One day you'll see him face to face. Now we don't see him face to face, but we can by faith. It's the only, without faith, God said it's impossible to please me. Hebrews 11:6 says that. Without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. He's not a rewarder. I heard that preached in the pulpit one time, and I was about to come unglued. I kept hearing, this is what I heard. Ready? God is a rewarder. God is a rewarder. God is a rewarder. God is over and over again. I heard that in the pulpit. A minister, God bless him, and we love him, but we love ministers and preachers and teachers and prophets and evangelists, but we have to present the truth in its entirety. And I heard, God is a rewarder. God is a rewarder. God is a rewarder. Well, if you think God is a rewarder, and that's all you think, and you have no requirement in that, when things don't go the way that you want them to, or the way that you've been believing to, because you don't understand the full counsel of God, then you're going to blame it on God and say, God, God didn't come through. Well, God always comes through if you do it his way. Most people don't want to do it his way. They just want their fire insurance, their sin ticket, so whenever they sin, they could just throw it on the table, so to speak, kind of flippantly in most cases. No, that's not how we do it, man. God is a rewarder. Listen, God is a rewarder of those, you and me, those who diligently seek him. So a lot of times people will have an understanding that God's a rewarder, but not have an understanding that he is a rewarder. He's a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. So what's the implication? If you don't diligently seek him, those rewards that pastor was talking about, that minister was talking about, they're not for that person. You have to diligently seek him to enjoy the benefits of the relationship. You get that, right? I mean, that's got to make sense. We got to get this stuff right. And we got to be praying for ministers all over the world that are preaching this goofy, candy-coated gospel, this watered down gospel where there's no responsibility, there's no discipline, there's no commitment to Jesus. It's just get your fire insurance and you're going to be fine. No, you're not going to be fine. If that's what you think Christianity is about, at the end of your life, you're going to split hell wide open unless you get under some good teaching and hear the word of God for what it really is. This ain't no candy-covered gospel. We want to hear the unadulterated gospel, the full gospel, because it's the truth that's in the gospel that sets us free. So he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And that's what we're doing. We're doing that together. We're diligently seeking him. And I'm not putting that pastor down. I'm just trying to make a point to help you understand that if we just think God's a rewarder, but we have no responsibility, we're totally missing it. That's not how a relationship is. You get that, right? Do that to your wife. You know, you don't do anything and let her do everything, and you watch what happens. You're going to have an unhappy wife and an unhappy life. In Luke 137, it says, "For with God, nothing is impossible." That is engaging faith, applying faith. Nothing's impossible to those who believe. I think that scripture is in John 1:9. I think, is it 1:9? It's around there somewhere. I wrote a couple of these down so I wouldn't forget. Oh, Mark 9. Sorry. Mark 9:23. Everything is possible to those who believe. Now, you can believe God for anything. I was saying the other day, I believed God for $500,000 one time, and I had no idea where it was going to come from. I never had $500,000 at one time. I didn't know where it was going to come from. But man, I'll tell you what, I engaged my faith concerning that. And that's just filthy mammon. You know, that's just unrighteous mammon. That's money. I'm not talking about using your faith for that, though you can. The most important thing is your relationship with Jesus. That's what he said in Luke 10:38, I think. We use our faith to enter into the most beautiful and intimate relationship that we could ever have, where we experience the fullness of joy and pleasures forevermore. But I believe God for $500,000, and man, you couldn't move me off it. I didn't know where it was going to come from, but it was like I was being challenged. It was like it was the Lord. I have to believe that it was that powerful, and I couldn't even thought would not even be able to come into my mind that I wasn't going to get that $500,000. See, that's faith in action. That's faith engaged. That's why he said, everything is possible to those who believe. That's what God said. And you know what? I believe, man, I was like, man, I threw my faith into the mountain, so to speak. And I wasn't moving off of it. I crossed the faith line and I wasn't moving. And in 2 weeks, somebody slipped me a check for $500,000, $500,000. Woohoo, God. It was amazing. But again, that's just unrighteous mammon. What we're talking about here is something much more important than that. I'm talking about an intimate relationship with God. And in order for you to enjoy that kind of relationship where you're face to face with him and mouth to mouth, that's how intimate that it can be. That's how he spoke with Moses. And he was a servant of God. And he's going to speak that way with you because you're a friend of God. How much more will he speak with us as the friends of God versus the servants of God in the Old Testament? But in order for you to enjoy that kind of relationship, yeah, there's disciplines, there's things you got to do. And I talked about those the first 6 months, the 6 steps to enjoying the presence of God. Then the next 6 months, I talked about sin, the things that you have to eliminate so that you can have an intimate relationship with the holy God. So if you're living like the devil, now you get this. If you're living like the devil, it's going to be impossible to have an intimate relationship with God. I mean, think about it. He's holy, and you're going to be living like the devil, and you're going to, that's okay, and you're just going to sit down with him every day and have a face-to-face and mouth-to-mouth, intimate, eye-to-eye, one-on-one relationship? No! That is not going to happen, my friend. And anybody that tells you that, they're lying to you. Jesus said, anyone who says they abide in me and does not walk as I walk is a liar. So you can't have that kind of relationship if you're not walking like Jesus, which means you got to lay down your sin that so easily betangles you. I made that word up. It's actually tangle. That's what God said, but I call it betangle. I make up words. So that first 6 months was all about the things we've got to do to be intimate with him. The next 6 months was all about eliminating sin that will keep us out of the presence of God. And now we're talking about faith over the next 6 months. And this is the third one. So we're just starting here. But I used my faith to receive that $500,000. And again, that's unrighteous mammon. Now, I've said that 3 times because I want that to really sink in. That's how powerful faith is if you engage it properly, if you know how to use it properly. And that same faith will put you in the very presence of God, if you feel anything or not. Remember, we walk by faith and not by sight. So we're not moved by what we feel. We're only moved by what we believe. And it's amazing. And man, sometimes the heavens will open wide open and you'll just be sitting on his lap, enjoying him, so intimate, weeping because you get so tender in his presence. And other times you won't feel anything at all, but you showed up. And he knows. And during those times, it's just as real to him and can be to you as when you feel like, you're going on a walk with him or kissing him on his cheek or laughing with him. Because you're doing it by faith. It's by faith. It is impossible to please God without faith. That's the only thing that moves the hand of God. It's not your sorrow. It's not depression. It's not hunger. It's not dissatisfaction. It's another word I made up. The only thing that moves his hand is faith. That's what he wants you to operate in, is faith. That's what pleases him, man. He just gets excited when you do that. In Mark 9:23, Jesus said to him, he said this, he said, like I said before, everything is possible. Everything is possible to him who believes. So you could be the worst sinner. You could be so evil and terrible. But you know what? If you start using your faith, and I'm going to show you how to do that over the next 6 months on purpose, to come into his presence. And what will happen is, now you'll have commitments, you'll have to do some things, discipline yourself. You're going to have to make a commitment to spend time with him every day. You're going to have to understand that you have responsibility. You have to understand that you're going to have to lay down your old way of life when you give your heart to him. But when you're struggling in his presence, he'll transform you into his image. So the things that you struggled with in the past, they won't have